A series of bonds issued by the Qing government a century ago are once again questioning the legitimacy of the Chinese Communist regime that is now in a difficult dilemma it cannot get out of. The market value of the bonds is worth 1.6 trillion US dollars, and if the CCP wants to prove itself to be the legitimate government of China, then it has to pay back these bonds. Then it must recognize that the Republic of China, Taiwan, is the legitimate government of China. In 1911, the Hukuang Railway Bond was issued by the Qing Dynasty to the United States, Britain, France, and Germany to raise funds for the construction of the Huguang Railways that run from Hunan to Guangzhou. The total amount was £6.5 million with an annual interest rate of 5%. The bond was due in 40 years, which was in 1951. After the Qing Dynasty was overthrown, the Republic of China recognized the inheritance of the Hukuang Railway Bond and repaid part of the interest to the United States. The payments of interests were stopped in 1938 due to the outbreak of the anti-Japanese War. However, when the People's Republic of China subverted the Republic of China in 1949, the PRC refused to recognize the debt. Recently, Americans who hold the Hukuang Railway Bond initiated a movement to demand the Chinese Communist Party repay the debt.
These bonds were originally issued under the Republic of China, of what we know today as Taiwan. And the communist regime who went in and took over and became official in 1949, it becomes their responsibility to honor this debt, the CCP, Chinese Communist Party's debt, just as they paid Great Britain in 1987 for the very same bonds. It is successor government doctrine.
Based in Tennessee, the American Bondholders Fund organization represents 20,000 American citizens holding Hukuang Railway bonds in 46 states. These Americans inherited the bonds from their grandparents or parents. Jonna Bianco expressed to NTD that governments all over the world issue long-term debt. For example, the CCP currently issued 100-year bonds to Europe. Therefore, to call the Hukuang Railway Bond an antique or historical debt belittles the legality and credibility of this sovereign debt. The CCP also has a precedent for repaying the Hukuang Railway Bond. In 1987, the British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher ordered the CCP to cash in bonds held by the British, otherwise it would lose access to the British capital market and also lose the right to reclaim Hong Kong's sovereignty. The Beijing authorities then reached a settlement agreement with the UK to pay UK creditors £23.5 million. However, the CCP has always refused to cash in on bonds held by Americans. It selectively defaulted, deliberately not repaying the money owed to American investors.
So I testified before Congress on Capitol Hill, on a couple of different committees. I've testified before the World Bank and the IMF. Have held many meetings with members of Congress, administration officials, State Department, Treasury, Securities and Exchange Commission, all of whom confirm that this is a legitimate legal debt owed by the People's Republic of China, but just China refuses to pay, even though they paid Great Britain.
As early as 1973, before the establishment of diplomatic relations between the United States and China, the U.S. representative told the CCP during negotiations that although the debt does not have to be repaid immediately, the U.S. will not exempt it. Although the CCP government claims to be the only legal government in China and has the right to inherit the sovereignty of Hong Kong left by the Qing government, it does not recognize the right to inherit the Hukuang Railway bonds issued by the Qing government.
OneChina Policy that the Chinese Communist Party dictates claims Taiwan as part of their OneChina Policy. So unless the People's Republic of China is saying that Taiwan, the Republic of China, is the real China, then this would become the ROC debt. But because the People's Republic of China mandated a OneChina policy, and that now, as we have seen, how they have tried to take Hong Kong under their banner, and of course Taiwan, and they control the seat at the UN and make every country abide by their one China policy. Legally, it is the People's Republic of China's debt and obligation.
Bianco said that the previous U.S. administrations did not attach any importance to the issue of the Huguang Railway Bond, but President Trump is different from them.
For President Donald J. Trump, who is listening to this issue. I have met with him personally. He has committed his support behind this issue. He is the only president that has held China accountable to play by the same rules, to have fair trade, to have, as he said perfectly, reciprocity. And that's what Americans expect. That's what the world expects.
So how to make the CCP pay this debt?
Americans' tax dollars are paying China $72 million a day on Chinese-held U.S. treasuries. That's not a number we pulled out of thin air. It's in the Congressional Budget Office reports, right? So why are we sending that $72 million a day to China when they owe Americans trillions of dollars in damages from their Wuhan virus, in intellectual property theft, in forced technology? The list is a mile long over the damages caused by the Chinese Communist Party.
According to data from the U.S. Treasury Department, as of May 2020, the CCP holds $1.08 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds. Bianco suggested that the Trump administration exchange bonds with the CCP, that is, use the Hukuang Railway Bonds to repay the U.S. Treasury bonds held by the CCP. Bianco said that she is confident that this matter will succeed.